So today is a pagan holiday, and I figured I would tell a story that is kind of witchy and pagan and aligned with that sort of thing. So I'm going to tell you the story about how I got my first crystal. I guess I should say, like, in the neo-pagan tradition, most of them refer to this day as Imbolc. I prefer to use the term Candlemas for my celebration of this, or my honoring of this day specifically, because I like to light candles, and it's just a good day, I feel, to set your intentions of creativity. In Ireland, which is a big part of where a lot of my family came from Europe. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have family in Europe, basically from Ireland, France, and Italy. That's it. So, and the rest of my ancestry is basically indigenous American. So, but the biggest part of it is Irish on both sides. So I feel very drawn to certain things, and in Ireland this is known as St. Bridget's Day as well. So St. Bridget is basically, she was a pagan goddess who the people loved so much that the Catholic Church decided to venerate her as a saint in order to convert more people. People would not give up Bridget, and people still honor her and pray to her to this day in Ireland and here as well. Anywhere where there's Irish, really, she's a very important figure to a lot of people. She's basically like a great mother figure in a lot of ways. That's kind of her role as a goddess. But she's really just a great conduit of creativity and creative energy. So in this time, I feel it's really important to, as a holiday, kind of use it to think about what you want to create this year. And we're also in the sign of Aquarius, so you can kind of think outside the box in this time as well, which is different. A lot of people put their New Year's resolutions, they write them in the sign of Capricorn, which is good. I don't think that's wrong, but in terms, I think this time is good to look at them and kind of expand them and take them further, and to really think about thinking bigger and kind of thinking of how you could do things differently. A lot of New Year's resolutions are very kind of traditional, and I feel like Aquarius, even though it is traditionally ruled by Saturn, it's a sign that's also very kind of concerned with challenging convention, whilst also being really aware of it and kind of I don't know. It's funny, it's a sign that's constantly challenging convention and thoughts and living convention in reality. So Aquarians are some of the hardest people for people to deal with, if you don't know and understand them and love them for what they are. So yeah, basically you don't know really where they're coming from a lot of the time. That's a big problem people have with them. Anyway, you can use that energy now to kind of revisit your resolutions and goals, and think kind of well, how can I do things differently? How can I do this in a different way? This is a good time to think about that. You can find a lot of creative inspiration in this time. And it's also a time when the seeds are starting to stir in the earth, and the plants in life are starting to wake up slightly deep within the earth. So it's just it's one of my favorite holidays, honestly. But yeah, I call it Candlemas. Most neo-pagans call it Imbolc, and you can call it whatever you want, really, if you're interested in working with pagan holidays and like honoring that tradition. I think they really connect you more to the cycle of the earth and the solar system. So I'm big on that. But anyway, I guess today I wanted to talk to you about, getting my first crystal. So this is a funny story, and it's funny because it's old. Like, I got my first crystal when I was 4 years old. And the backstory of this is that when I was very, very young, my father and I lived in Homer, Alaska. We lived in a little cabin. We didn't have running water. Like, it was very archaic. We had to, basically, we had, a sink and stuff, but there was no plumbing, so, we had buckets and stuff. Like, it was very, very primitive how we lived. And my father was extremely disabled at the time. He had broken his back right after we had gotten back to Alaska. So he had broken his back, and he and my mother had separated, so he was incredibly depressed. And all of this, the sedentariness and the depression, coupled with his lifelong battle with using food to cope with his problems, basically led to him being over 600 pounds. So I was this little tiny kid, this little tiny, baby girl with curly reddish brown hair that basically lived with this morbidly obese man who was incredibly, incredibly depressed. And despite all of that, my father took really good care of me in that time. He did pull out a lot of reserve, and I think sorry. Just in retrospect, I see how much he just had to pull out just to survive, and it's painful, but so yeah. Anyway, I lost my father last year, so I'm still kind of upset about it. Anyway, I want to tell you this story because it's good. Anyway, I hope people are not shitty about me crying, because I don't know. I mean, I don't really care on one level, but I do care on some levels, because it's just people are so stupid and cruel a lot of the time, which is something my father taught me very, very early on, and I don't know. It's hard to think about. It's hard to think about how, I don't know, all of this is very hard right now. So anyway, yeah. Probably not making much sense. Anyway, I'm just thinking about that time in my life, and it's just I miss my dad, But anyway, so yeah. I hope I can pull it together, because I want this video to be good, and I'm not going to record another video after this because I've already been crying, so it's not going to really make sense. But yeah, so anyway, he and I went to, he was on welfare at the time, actually. We were living in some pretty fucking fucked up poverty at that time. He was not working, he couldn't work. So we were on welfare at the time. And he, to make extra money, started making crafts, and so did I with him, actually. And for people who don't know, my father is half Native American. So, like, he started making dream catchers, and that was, like, a big thing. My grandma made them as well. My grandma's dream catchers were different than my father's, and I don't know if I'm gonna carry on doing that. I kind of want to, but, like, I also know how, like, stupid people are about that shit, you know, and, like, I'm white passing. People don't really understand, like, why you might want to carry on that tradition, or it's not even about profiting from something. It's just about wanting to carry on something that your family has done. So anyway, my dad made these incredible dream catchers. Like, he had such cool ones. He would, like, use birch wood, and then he would wrap it in leather, and dress them with, like, furs and feathers and, like, buckles and beads and, like, all kinds of pretty things. And, like, he would sometimes, like, he had this technique of, like, ribboning the leather that was just gorgeous. I really wish I still had some of his dream catchers. I had one, and I think I left it in Alaska with the crystal that I'm going to talk about today. This is another crystal that's the same type of crystal. This was actually sent to me from my friend Dollsnatch here on YouTube, who's amazing. But yeah, it was rose quartz. Anyway, so yeah, we made crafts and stuff. I made, like, bracelets and keychains and that sort of thing, and my dad made these dream catchers. And basically we started going to, in Alaska, there's, like, all of these, like, fairs and events during the summer where you can, like, sell, like, arts and crafts. And yeah, my dad and I always set up these tables, and we put out, like, our stuff, and that was a way that we made more money. So yeah, one of the first ones we were at and went to was somewhere kind of along the Seward Highway. I don't really remember where exactly, but we had just got done with the day, and, like, my dad was talking with, like, his, like, you know, some other people who were, like, artists and craftsmen, whatever you want to call them. And I was kind of, like, daydreaming, gazing off into this, like, rushing stream that was nearby. And when I say rushing stream, it was, like, it was not wide, but it was running rapidly. And in retrospect, it's, like, no wonder, like, they all freaked out when I did this. But, like, I saw this massive pink thing in there. Like, and it was so captivating. I'm like, what is that pink thing? I remember this very clearly, even though I was 4 years old. This had to be, like, 1992. Yeah, it had to be the summer of 1990. So I see this, like, pink stone in the river. I wasn't sure what it was, but I just was, like, captivated by this, like, strange pink color. And I was just like, what the hell is that? So I got up my resolve. I was like, I'm gonna find out, you know? And my little self jumped into the river there. And, like, it was so funny because, like, me, I knew exactly what I was doing, but the adults freaking out. They were freaking out. And okay, we have to think about Alaskan summers too. They're not that warm, and that water was very cold. So they were very concerned with me, like, getting hypothermia, any of that. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to find out what this pink thing was. So I, like, grabbed it, and I realized it's a rock. You know, I'm in the water there, and I just remember being like, it's a rock. And I already had a rock collection, okay, at that time. You know, I already was collecting rocks and doing that sort of thing. And I was having trouble with it, but I like, as they were trying to pull me out of the water, because they jumped in after me, some of the adults, my dad didn't, he couldn't, but yeah, they were jumping in after me trying to grab me, and I just like held onto this thing with my little tiny hands, and it was massive. Like the stone was like this big, I'm not kidding, and it was in the riverbed, or you know, stream bed, whatever, and they're just all staring at, like freaking out. So anyway, I held on as tight as I could, and I started like yanking it back and forth. I was not gonna let them get me out of that water without getting that rock. So it popped out, you know, as they do, and like they're all looking at me, and I'm just like there with my, you know, rock, like what was wrong? And like, you know, everyone's eyes are all big, like a lot of them didn't get it after I had the rock too. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And my dad was like, that's rose quartz. Wow. You know, like he was just kind of like, he was upset on one level, but he was also like, oh, okay. My kid just got a massive piece of rose quartz. So yeah, like I had that thing pretty much my entire childhood, and I left it in Alaska, and I really regret that because it was such a valuable piece of stone, and the shape of it was so cool too. Like it was smooth and flat on one side, and like the under part of it was all like jagged and strange. Like I don't know, it was an incredible stone. So yeah, I put it in my bed because when I was a kid I used to sleep with my rocks. But yeah, that one really just was very important to me. And you know, I think I slept with it for a couple of years. And in retrospect, you know, understanding what rose quartz represents, it made a lot of sense, you know. It was like a comfort to me because rose quartz is a very comforting, like emotionally, like just, yeah, I guess comforting, loving, peaceful energy that it gives. And it like, it's a good stone, like in general. It's one of my favorites, actually. I think rose quartz, even though it's kind of like, it's kind of plain, there's just something so soft and fragile and sweet about it. So yeah, I was fine. You know, we had blankets in the car. My dad wrapped the blankets around me in our old Cadillac, and we drove back to Homer. And I had that stone for, you know, pretty much until I was 19 and left Alaska. So, yeah, that was the very interesting emotional story of how I got my first crystal. I didn't really start collecting crystals again until I was an adult, although quartz was a big thing. Anytime I would see like white quartz, even as like a teenager who didn't collect rocks, like I still would pick them up, and I still do. If I see a little piece of white quartz, I'm like, good luck, and I grab it. So yeah, crystals are amazing. Like I don't know, I might do a video just talking about like showing my different crystals and how I've interacted with them, but like they really do have, there's something very special about them. And the thing that's really special about them, I think, is like so often people are so stuck in like thinking about, you know, the majesty of the universe, and like when the earth that we live on here creates things like this, incredibly beautiful, intricate, colorful things like this. Like why would you want to go anywhere else? It's so magical here. Anyway, yeah, so rose quartz, very important. And Candlemas, happy Candlemas to all of you. And yeah, I miss my dad a lot. So yeah, there's my story of how I got my first crystal. Peace out.